I'm breaking down episode 1 of Andor because Cassian said I had to. Hey Star Wars fans, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, I'm Patrick. I talk everything Star Wars from cosplay to props to TV show, movie reviews, or just showing off this awesome Star Wars basement. So if you love Star Wars, be sure to subscribe and come back for the next video. But today, as we get ready for Andor Season 2, I'm doing a complete rewatch of Season 1 and breaking down every episode, having seen it once before. And Star Wars, if you're watching and looking for someone to come to the Andor premiere, just saying. So let's dig in to Episode 1 of Andor. Episode 1 kicks off on the planet Morlana 1. And immediately we see a tonal shift in Star Wars. This planet is gritty, it's dark. There's no bustling markets, there's no fun. It's setting the tone for what's going to be a dark story. A story that's raw, that's real, that's more down to earth than any Star Wars story we've gotten before. And the other setting they show us is the planet Ferrix. Here we see shipyards, we see industrial work happening. This seems like a very blue-collar, working-class planet. It's the planet Cassian grew up on, and it shows a people trying to survive, and I think it really sets the tone for Cassian's character as we move through this series. And speaking of Cassian, he is the title character, and he's the first character we're introduced to in this series. While it's the same character we know from Rogue One, we're seeing an earlier version of him. And in this story, he's on a mission right from the get-go. He is looking for his sister. It's clear from the start that he's willing to go to whatever lengths necessary to find her. We also get flashbacks to Cassian's childhood, where we see him with a Lord of the Flies-esque little encampment of other children on another planet. We're getting a glimpse of some trauma that he has had as a kid and how that has shaped him into the man we see now. We're also introduced to Bix, a friend of Cassian's, although they seem to have a complicated past. The interaction they have leads us to believe there's a deeper story between these two, and I think that that's going to add layers to Cassian's background as we go through the story. And we're also introduced to a third character in the premiere, and that's Cyril. This is a security officer who clearly has ambitions of greater things. This ambition, combined with his rigid demeanor, clearly sets up what's going to be a great antagonist for this series. He's not going to be your typical over-the-top villain. It's going to be a grounded villain, just like this grounded story. What did you think of the character introductions in this first episode? Let me know in the comments. While I'm not going to do a full point-by-point plot review of every episode during these breakdowns, I will talk a little bit about the events of the episode. So for this one, it starts off in a brothel where Cassian hears that someone from his home planet had been working, hopefully his sister. There's a confrontation between two security guards that escalates quickly in an alley where they try to extort him. And in trying to escape, we find Cassian accidentally unalives one of the security officers. This scene is going to be pivotal to this series because it's going to set off a chain of events that takes Cassian on his journey throughout the entire series. And having Cassian unalive one of these security guards right from the get-go is showing us that Cassian is not going to be your typical hero in a Star Wars movie. He's flawed, he's desperate, and he's just trying to survive. And upon getting back to Ferrix, we see him setting into motion ways to cover his tracks to prove that he wasn't on a planet where this happened. And this gives us a lot of insight into the dangerous world that Cassian's a part of. We then see him meet up with Bix. He asks her to reach out to a contact, a mysterious buyer who we know nothing about. He thinks he has something to sell that can help him escape his trouble. And it seems like for him, this meeting is more than just a transaction. It's like a lifeline for him. He's desperate, and this shows that he is willing to go as far as he needs to go to survive. It's clear that this meetup is going to set the tone for what's coming in this show. Let's talk about the themes of Andor. Episode 1 sets the tone. This show is going to be heavy. It's going to be mature. It's going to deal with oppression, with rebellion, with the harsh realities of those people living on the fringes. And it's going to show what a world where the Empire rules is really like. When the Star Wars movies originally came out, we were just told the Empire is bad. We didn't see a whole lot of why. This show is going to show us the why. And as I said earlier, this show is going to be a more grounded story. It seems like the people are your everyday people. They're not the Luke Skywalkers. They're not the Reys. They're not the people who are going to be above and beyond the heroes. They're regular folk trying to survive and hopefully joining together to form a rebellion. It almost feels like we're stepping into a world that's been hidden in the shadows of the Star Wars saga. Visually, this show is stunning right out of the gates. It's clear that they're using real sets, real props, and you can capture that gritty, dark, dystopian feel of the planets right from those sets. And making those sets darker really makes you feel like this world is lived in and real. Aside from some mentions of planets, some tech that we've seen before, I didn't get a whole lot of Easter eggs out of this episode, which was refreshing, but also I like Easter eggs. They're little details that help you connect different stories of these Star Wars universes together. But let me know in episode 1, did I miss anything? Were there Easter eggs that I didn't catch? Overall, episode 1 and my second watch through here was better than my first watch through. I remember thinking when I watched the first 3 episodes as they dropped simultaneously, I remember thinking, oh, I get why they dropped 3 episodes, because 1 and 2 and half of 3 were a little boring before you finally got to the end of episode 3. But I think watching episode 1 this second time has given me a new perspective into it, and I wasn't bored at all. I think that it is doing a wonderful job of world building and character building. And knowing what is to come, I think that it hits the mark every step of the way. But I'd love to hear from you. Have you done a rewatch of Andor yet, getting ready for season 2? What are your thoughts on this first episode? Or if you're watching Andor for the first time and coming to my video to get some perspective on the episode, what did you think on your first watch through of this episode? If you enjoyed my breakdown, please consider subscribing and following along. Not only am I going to review every episode of Andor Season 1 leading up to the new season, I do all sorts of fun Star Wars video. I make costumes, I make props, I show off my awesome collection, and I do some funny skits along the way. So I hope you join me on this journey, and until next time, may the Force be with you.